What is up YouTube, and today we have a tier list for you guys. Like I mentioned in my previous video, I would be making a tier list for the ML 5-star headhunting event, and here it is. So basically we're going to be ranking all of the 5-star ML units you can get for free. If you guys didn't know, if you log into the game, there is an event going on where basically you can get whatever ML 5-star that you want for free just by collecting points by using energy and doing dailies and weeklies, except for a select few at the bottom here. So before we start this tier list, I want to tell you guys the tiers that we're separating these units into. The first tier is going to be best picks. I think these units are just going to be the best picks overall, pretty self-explanatory. Then we have the decent units. These units will be a tier below the best picks, but still pretty decent. Then we have the cleave tier. These units are going to be for just cleavers only mostly. Then we have the needs a buff tier. These units just need a buff, and I don't know why this unit's here. Let me fix this real quick. But anyways, the needs a buff tier means that these units need a buff. They're just not that great right now. And then of course we have the not available tier. These units either came from a collab, have released too recently, or are not released yet, so you will not be able to get these units. So we actually turn the names on so you guys can actually see. And if you guys are just here to see the tiers without me explaining, you guys just saw it, so you guys can actually just take that info for yourselves. But I'm going to be explaining through these tiers pretty quickly, mostly the best picks, because these are the units that you most likely want to get, and I want to give you a good reason why you want to get them. So first off, at the top, we have Navy Captain Landy. Now I'm just saying this before we start. This tier list is geared for pretty much everyone, and the majority of the players in this game are going to be not RTA or World Arenaing. So because of that, I have Navy Captain Landy at the top, and the reason for this is because she is one of the best PvE units for ML 5-star. You can use her in expeditions, you can use her in adventure, she's very good. You can even use her in hunts and raid, and she's always going to be a solid damage dealer that's very, very tanky. And she's also extremely good for PvP. Even though there's a ton of counters for her out, she can still win against her counters, which is insane, right? The biggest counters against her that are ML 5-stars are like ML Bologna, ML Sirmia, ML Ken, and even you have like units like Noggle and stuff like that, and a ton more units that were built to just counter her. And she can still win against them because that's how powerful she is, right? Her Esther just wins the game, just a very powerful unit. She did fall off a little bit in PvP, but she's still a top tier pick, and I still think she's one of the best units in general, right? She's also very good in arena offense. If you want to use her in an auto team, she's extremely powerful there. So there's a lot of areas of content you can use her in. And the best part is there's so many different builds, right? You can put her on an Aureus build, on protection set. You can put her on a counter-attacking damage build, which is the most common one, or even an injury build, which is insane and probably the most annoying to fight against. Next we have Zeo. So Zeo is very important to have on your account because he secures you turn 1 with only 260 speed, right? So with 260 speed, you'll outspeed everything in the game. That's why Zeo's so good, because you might be thinking, oh, what if I don't cleave, if I don't want to go fast? Zeo counters cleave because it secures you the first turn and will also knock back units' combat readiness. So if you guys don't have Zeo and you're struggling against cleave, you definitely want to get Zeo. He is the best anti-cleave unit in the game. Also will enable cleave, and honestly you can build him on many different ways. You can build him on effectiveness, you can build him on damage, a little bit tankier, right? So you never really know what kind of Zeo you're facing, and even if you build him on like an effectiveness build, he hits like a truck. So I think he is definitely a must-have unit on your account as well. Next we have ML Politist, very strong, Guild Wars defense and also just an opener in general. She has fallen off a little bit. Honestly, you might want to put her down somewhere around here. I think it'll make more sense. And honestly, because we're doing this live, I'm just going to put her down a little bit. I think this is probably a little bit better, but she's still a very strong opener, very good with Janua still, and her passive is super strong. She cuts down resource gain by 50%, very good against Navy Captain Landy, Abyssal Fine, Lone Crescent Bologna, and stuff like that. She's also very good in defense teams. Because of this reason, you can stop a lot of those very good auto teams. Ambitious Tywin, this guy is just an asshole, right? He stuns you, he defense breaks you, he takes your souls, he provokes you, he cleanses, right? He pretty much does everything. And he's a knight, so he can hold Aureus, right? Just a super frustrating unit to play against. He does a ton of damage for no reason. He has an AoE stun and defense break for no reason. And he takes your souls, right? Just one of the most overloaded kits in the game. So I think he's definitely a unit you want. Only good in PvP, but my god is he really strong. Death Dealer Ray, kind of the same boat as Ambitious Tywin. Just an asshole of a unit. He sleeps, injuries, gives your team effectiveness, has injury detonation, just super, super frustrating. Because of that, also top tier unit, one of the best injury units in the game for PvP. Blood Moon Haste, you know, we kind of have this trifecta: Mitch's Tywin, Death Deal Ray, Blood Moon Haste. Kind of the same as the other two, right? Just really strong, right? He has a not a revive. I guess he does have a revive when he kills a unit with his S3. His S3 hits like a truck single target. He has healing. He has, you know, dispels. Just super frustrating. If you kill a unit on his team, he gives everyone a barrier, and he gets like this buff. So annoying. There are counters to these units now, most namely like injuries and stuff like that, but they're still very powerful. And honestly, it's probably unit I'm going to be going for. It's either Blood Moon Haze or Ambitious Tywin. I'm kind of leaning towards Ambitious Tywin though. Abyssal Euphine, very strong damage dealer, similar to Navy Captain Landy, although she's not as good in PvE, and she does require certain units around her. I think Abyssal Euphine is a little bit more easier to deal with, just because you kind of need to pair her with Conquer Ilias to actually get a lot of gain with the dual attacks, but still a very powerful unit. Her S3 is amazing, pretty much a win you the game button, same like Navy Captain Landy, so for that reason she's also one of the best picks for PvP, while still being very good for PvE as well. Conquer Ilias here, mentioned she's very good with Abyssal Euphine. She's just very good in general. Vigor buff, her S3 buff, is the most broken buff in the game. You just make your team tankier and also do more damage. So because of that, she will never ever fall out of the meta, to be honest. Her Vigor buff is just way too strong, and her dual attacks on her S1 are amazing, and her S2 provoke is super frustrating, and she's very fast to boot. And she's also very good in some PvE content, namely Ancient Inheritance and also Hunt one-shots. Bellion just denies the mechanic of the game. She denies souls, you know, very powerful, just a very frustrating unit to play against. And she counters cleave. She also is good on defense teams. You can also use her on offense and World Arena. And she's just really strong because you can put her on so many different builds, right? You can put her on injury, you can put her on counter, you can put her on full damage. I've seen fast Bellions. It's like super annoying to play against because you never know what you're against. Like sure, you can pick like Verwana into her and think that is a free win, but if the Bellion's not on Elbrus and on injury set and is fast, you are pretty much screwed. Next we have Urban Shadow Shu, best injury unit in the game. Also does pretty well against these very toxic units, so if you're looking for a good answer to health scaling bruisers, Urban Shadow Shu will be your best bet. Now you guys have probably noticed that most of these units are for PvP. MO 5 stars, just a disclaimer, are mostly designed for PvP content, sorry. MO 5 stars are mostly for PvP because they are technically late game units. And that is the best pick tier. If you guys think that other units should go up there because of buffs or nerfs, let me know in the comments down below. The other units are pretty self-explanatory though. I'm not going to go through every single one because there's so many now. There used to be not as much, but we have so many MO 5 stars now, which is great. But some ones that I want to point out in the decent tier: Spectre Tenebria and Arbor Vildred, after they got their exclusive equipments, super strong in PvE, they always have been, but they're actually very viable in PvP as well. ML Kairon, after his buffs, he's going to be a super strong unit for PvP as well. Last Strider Crow, some people might put him in one of the best picks. I think he's just a decent pick though, because there's so many good knights in the game, right? You have like Crimson Armin, you have Ambitious Tywin, even, you know, Arrowell to an extent. You know, he's very good against dealing with AoE damage, and after his buffs, maybe he's even higher, but for now I'm gonna keep him somewhere in the decent tier. You could say he's probably somewhere around tier, and no one will, you know, say you're wrong. Dragon King Sharoon, one of the best counter picks in the game. If you pick her against Death Deal Ray or anything that stuns or sleeps, she is going to win you the game. She has an AoE, you know, debuff. I think it's defense break on knights and like decrease attack on damage dealers, which is amazing. She also has a stun on her S1. She also gives your team damage. Just a very strong unit. Another unit I want to talk about is Dark Corvus, Guild Wars monster, very strong, also good against very slow comps in World Arena. Pirate Captain Flan, a CC monster, just a very strong unit in general. She did get reworked a bit, but she's still pretty good after testing her. And another one would be something like, you know, Ruel. After Ruel's buffs, I think she's a pretty solid unit, and something that you shouldn't really ignore. And then of course we have the cleave tier here. I think the only unit you must have as a cleaver, to be honest, is probably Requiem Rwana, just because she pairs so well with CO and just the other cleave units that are not MO 5 stars, such as Booming Lidica and stuff like that. Another very powerful one here is Eternal Wanderer Ludwig. This guy can solo one-shot your entire team. Super annoying, he just needs souls, right? Just be careful about picking him into Bellion. If you're a cleaver, these units are very good. I'd say the top two by a long mile is going to be ML Ludwig and ML Rwana, and probably everything else is probably even, like in this order, I'd say, or something like that. And of course we have the needs buff tier. Sure, you guys might find these units fun or have success with some of them, but in general, looking at statistics, they are not that great for PvP still, and hopefully Smilegate does actually rework them. or buff them so they actually get a little bit better. Some of them have already gotten reworked a bunch and they still kind of suck, so hopefully Smilegate, does a better job in balancing these units. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this tier list though, guys. If you guys have any different opinions, let me know in the comments down below, just because I'm always wondering what you guys are thinking. This is just my opinion and you guys can disagree with me. I just want to know what you guys are, thinking about and what units you think are stronger or weaker on this tier list. Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, have a great week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.